Welcome back to another day in the life of a military wife. One of the things I have really enjoyed about being in a military environment is meeting people from lots of different backgrounds, cultures, and countries. I grew up in a very diverse area and had friends from all over the world, and I've loved continuing that in the military and for my family, my kids, to have that same experience. And part of the reason for this is because there are quite a few individuals we have met who have immigrated to the United States and joined the military to gain citizenship and serve our country. And we've loved getting to know them better and learn more about their backgrounds. And there are servicemen and women in all the branches who are from different backgrounds and countries, including people who were born in Afghanistan who have joined our military. And so right now, there is a lot going on with that, and I want to share that with you. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so the bulk of the information I'm going to share comes from two articles from CNN dated last week. And that is, they've pulled their information from several other reports and sources and interviews. But it's, I think, easier just to cite them because they've got all of that information there. So those articles will be linked in the description. But basically, what I wanted to talk about was the fact that there are at least, and I'd probably say more like over 30 minimum U.S. service members who are natives of Afghanistan, who are U.S. citizens, who have or have had family stuck in this situation. And when I'm saying family at this point, I'm specifically referring to parents and siblings. Because of policies and procedures, it is easier to get spouses and children out of the country than extended family members. That said, one of the instances I want to refer to was from Fahim Masood, who is a U.S. military officer who struggled to get his parents and 3 siblings out of Kabul back in August. He initially tried to go through government channels and was told to fill out a bunch of paperwork by the State Department and different people. And once he did that, he's like, okay, so now what? And they're like, nothing. Basically, nothing happened. It went nowhere. Him and several other soldiers tried going through their chain of command. Their chain of commands were sympathetic, and it went up and then just died. And so he began cold calling members of the Joint Chief, which is not typically how the military tries to run things. But at the same time, when it's going nowhere and your family's lives are on the line, you kind of get a little desperate. That, again, went nowhere. Finally, he was able to get a hold of some former CIA officials or a former CIA officer who helped him locate his family, get them on a bus, get them into the Kabul airport, helped convince the people there to get them on a plane. But it took quite a bit of time, and they barely made it on a plane. And after all this was done, he sat back and realized, oh my goodness, I'm really lucky. What about everyone else? Because he knew he wasn't the only U.S. service member in this situation. And then he started receiving phone calls from standing Congress, U.S. Congress members, asking how they could get their constituents and their constituents' families out of the country. And he was floored because he was just a low-level U.S. officer. He didn't have any significant pull. He had been very blessed to see the miracle he had realized. And so he realized he needed to help and he needed to be involved and try to find ways of getting things done. So as of last week, according to the State Department and what they told congressional staffers, there are approximately, because they said the number changes on a regular basis, 363 U.S. citizens in Afghanistan that are actively seeking help in getting out of the country and are unable to leave. Many of these people have worked with the U.S. military. And in addition to all of them, there are the family members of U.S. service members who are still trapped in the country. Most of the evacuation flights in the last few weeks have been canceled, and it is unclear how many have made it out in the few that have taken place. The United States has no government or military presence in the country, so it is practically impossible for the State Department and the military to assess the situation of what's going on with our citizens and the family members of servicemen. Again, this is all pulled from the CNN article and its resources. Again, I took lots of notes, so you're going to hear paper rustling and mouse moving because I want to make sure I'm giving the facts as they're stated. So the officer that I was talking about previously, who was able to get his family out, realized he needed to work to help these other families that were trapped. Many of these families have had to go into hiding because they are being hunted by the Taliban. At least two U.S. service members anonymously spoke to CNN and gave the following statements. Or at least one of them gave the following statement. The military says family first, no one will be left behind. But nobody cares about my family, and nobody cares about the people that were left behind. But according to the State Department, it's insisted that the government has a limited legal ability on what it can do to help family members of the U.S. military personnel absent of an action of Congress. Yet these Congress members who are calling him obviously don't have the ability to do much either. It feels like everyone's hands are tied. The current administration has put together a task force to look into the situation, but again, very little has been actively, happened to help these people. There's lots of people concerned, but very little being practically done. The State Department said that they are only empowered to assist dependents under the age of 21. The Democrat from Colorado, Representative Jason Crow, stated in an interview or a public statement that it absolutely leaves many people in a situation of having to rely on other governments and NGOs to do this, referring to getting out of the country. He goes on to say, going back to August, the NGO community was one of the primary avenues of evacuation for folks, and that remains the case. And this is shocking that we have so many U.S. citizens and family members of U.S. citizens stuck in a country that they actively would like to leave, many of which, their lives are under threat. Some have had to burn their homes and belongings to cover up their connection with the United States military, to preserve their lives. They're living in tents and on dust floors, and with winter coming on and their inability to work because they're in hiding, they are running out of supplies, food, and protection. and the cold is going to become a life-threatening situation. And this includes children, the siblings of these service members, many of which have families of their own. And so it's a very shocking situation. I wanted to share another direct quote from another service member given anonymously. And for reasons that are probably clear to many people, there's a concern with speaking openly about some of these statements. They're worried that they're going to get in trouble for what they're saying. So basically the soldier said that there has not been any specific instructions by the DoD, and there has not been any official effort that they know of to help their families. And he knows of at least 20 other service members in the same position as him. Every single one of us brought this to their immediate superiors. And I want to make a note that our immediate superiors worked and fought extremely hard in order to evacuate our families to safety. And it made it pretty high up within our chain of command. But we just don't know what happened when it got higher up, because nothing ever came of it. Now, according to the Pentagon press secretary, who told reporters that they remain committed to making sure that we continue to do everything we can to get our Afghan allies who want to leave Afghanistan to help them get out, help them get out. And so, but then he admits that there's no U.S. military component or element to this effort. So it's confusing, because on one hand, they're saying that they are committed to making sure something happens, but then there is no plan of action. There is no policy in place. There is no structure. There's no procedure. There's no game plan. And that seems really concerning. And I know that by the other statements that these soldiers further on, that it is starting to affect the morale and readiness of these soldiers, because they are worried about their families being found and being killed by the Taliban. And one of them says that his family's house was searched by the Taliban because of their suspected connection to the United States military, and that they were lucky enough to survive because they had destroyed all of their pictures of him and all record of him being a member of their family. And that is just devastating, to think all of those memories and the family history that has been lost in order for these families to just survive. And it's heartbreaking. It's shocking. And it's devastating to see members of our own community, fellow service members, suffer like this, to worry and go through this with no hope and no chance of getting their family out, seemingly. Now, there are organizations still actively pursuing the rescue of these individuals. And as was stated by Representative Crow, those are NGOs. And not only that, the ones that have been rescued, again, are being aided by NGOs. And I am very grateful for those NGOs who have stepped up and been involved and helped these organizations. And quite a few have been churches. So I'm going to go into a second half of this, understanding what we understand now about the situation and what is going on. What can we do? What's being done? How can we help? And I want to share some stories with you. I have become aware of, for instance, in Ramstein, the U.S. military base in Ramstein, where a large amount of people were evacuated to. The members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints became aware that these families had fled with just the clothes on their backs and with very little belongings, and so in many cases did not have their traditional religious clothing and were felt uncomfortable because of it. And so the military wives in this congregation got together and sewed new ones for them, found out how they needed to do it, and went about and just made it happen without being asked to do so. The Lutheran Church, I know particularly in the state of Colorado, has gone about asking for winter clothing because these families, again, left a lot behind, and it is significantly, well, maybe some people would think the winters in Colorado are severe, but the weather in Colorado is significantly colder than they are accustomed to. And so they have gone out of their way to try to acquire jackets, coats, scarves, gloves, hats, boots, and any other winter clothing that they can for these families, as well as household goods for them to set up and start a new home here in the United States. And that's just two organizations that are helping these refugees and these evacuees once they arrive in the United States. And if you go on justserve.org, which is a service website, it will help you locate a lot of these service opportunities that are in your local area. But there are other organizations that are dedicated to getting these individuals out still, and I want to talk about them next. Okay, two organizations I want to talk about are the Nazarene. Oh, there's three actually, but there's two that I want to talk about right now in conjunction with one another, and that is the Nazarene Fund and Mercury One. Some of you will have heard about these because notably the radio personality turned business media individual Glenn Beck was greatly involved with this. But he put out the Operation Nazarene Rescue, which was part of the Nazarene Fund, and Mercury One were trying to get money and airplanes and stuff to rescue individuals. And within 3 days, they were able to raise $22 million to rescue Afghan Christian refugees. Now, in that they were able to get 1,200 Afghan Christians out of the country. And that's incredible. That was an absolutely landmark achievement. And the fact that they were able to raise the money so fast, get the planes, get the landing rights, get them out, get them to other places, get them resettled was incredible. And then by the end of the week, they were able to move more than that. But that was the initial, the 1,200 was the initial amount. They were able to get even more people out of the country eventually. And considering that they were able to, just the logistics involved with moving that many people that quickly and the cost and everything is mind-blowing. And those two organizations were working together in conjunction with Glenn Beck to accomplish that. So that was getting people out initially. As far as I know, the Nazarene Fund is still invested in getting people out. Now, the Nazarene Fund, and maybe not everybody knows this, but their mission statement is to liberate the captive, to free the enslaved, and to rescue, rebuild, and restore the lives of Christians and other persecuted religious and ethnic minorities wherever and whenever they are in need. And That's just powerful. And so, as far as I know, the Nazarene Fund is still active in this process, and it is they're very reputable and well, you know, it's obvious what they do with their money because we can see the fruits of it with this situation. So they're an organization. If you're looking for someone to support, that would, be worth looking into. Another organization that I have referred to before was the Operation Pineapple. Oh gosh, give me 5 seconds because I know I'm saying this wrong and I want to say it right. Okay, now I've got it. So it is the Task Force Pineapple. I keep saying Operation Pineapple, but that's not it. Anyway, the Task Force Pineapple people, I've talked about them before. They are former service members, U.S. service members that have gone back to aid people that they knew while they were in Afghanistan. And according to their website, they're a private-public partnership, and their mission is to answer the call to help Afghan allies who fought alongside them for decades, shoulder to shoulder, as well as individuals who are at risk now due to the current political climate in Afghanistan under the Taliban. And they've done quite a bit forming an underground railroad after the Kabul airport was turned over, because since then getting flights out has been very difficult. And so they have had to find other means of getting individuals out of the country. But they are also a very good organization to look into. And this is one thing I want to throw out there as a word of caution. There are a lot of reputable, really good, well-documented organizations involved in helping get these people out, in helping these individuals. However, there is a whole lot of pop-ups who claim to be involved and just are taking advantage of people's charity and generosity. So before you go and donate anything, time, money, resources, make sure you have thoroughly researched the organization that you are assisting to make sure that they are going to follow through with and use the things that you are providing in a way that you are comfortable with. That they've got a history, a record that is reliable and obvious. There's a lot that can be done to help these families. And especially with winter coming on, I feel just driven to please ask that, especially with the holidays approaching, find a way to help. Find a way to help these people because they feel forgotten. They feel like no one cares. And if there's a way we can help them understand that they are not forgotten, that they are loved, and that people do genuinely care, we should. And so that's my challenge this week. Again, a little bit more of an intense topic, but it's something I felt that needed to be said. I felt like these individuals, these service members' voices had the right to be heard. And I'm really grateful for the CNN news articles and other resources I found that enabled me to be able to share their stories with you. With that said, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife.